For those of you listening right now, I'm Danielle Wallace, the founder of Memoirs of a Virtuous Woman, and right now I would like to welcome Gretchen Carlson, the host of Fox News The Real Story with Gretchen Carlson that airs weekdays, and she's also the author of Getting Real. And some of you may also remember Gretchen as the 1989 Miss America pageant winner. And Gretchen, thank you so much for joining us. Now, we have two things in common. One thing, we're journalists. The second, which is most important to me, we share a love for Christ, which makes this more special for me as I continually go forward with my mission for Memoirs of a Virtuous Woman, which is to continually encourage young women to take that narrow road for Christ. And first
Thank
of
you.
all, you're welcome. And first of all, why Getting Real? Tell us, what is this message that you would like readers to receive from your book, Getting Real?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I think sometimes people look at journalists who have made it to the national stage and think that they have never had any struggles or any issues in their life. And I've had a life that's full of failure and pitfalls, along with some successes. And I just wanted people to really get to know the real me underneath and some of those struggles that I've had. So, along the way from becoming Miss America, I was a very serious violinist, and that's what got me into the whole program because talent was such a big part of it. To my television career, I've had big struggles, like consistently struggling with my weight as a child. I grew up a fat kid, learned how to build my self esteem from the inside, which is such an incredibly important lesson today, especially. I've gone through the shame of being fired the week after I got married, and it was the hardest year of my life. So I have great empathy for people who've gone through that as well. I struggled with infertility. Our first child was born with a very serious medical issue. I faced sexual harassment and a life-threatening stalker for 4 years. So these are all stories that I had never told before, and I just really wanted to be candid and share with people so that they would know the real me. And of course, as you mentioned, faith is a major theme throughout my book as well.
Right. Now, as journalists, our personal opinions, they aren't included in our stories. However, on your platform with Fox News, you managed to include your faith. How easy was this to transition for you, or did you worry what viewers may think?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was at CBS News for 5 years in New York before I came to Fox News, and I worked in a bunch of different local markets before then. And obviously, when you're reporting on murders and fires and very straight news, you're not putting any of your personal opinions or faith at all into the equation. But when I got over to Fox, I did the morning show there for 8 years, Fox and Friends, and it was a 3 hour, more of an ad lib show. And one day we just happened to be talking about something regarding faith. And I just decided to say, what I had grown up with and how faith was my foundation in my life. And it's how I try to raise my children. And it was really fascinating to see how the blogs just went crazy. Like it was, something negative that I was talking about. And it's really interesting because if people happen to see me on the streets or recognize me, the number one thing people say to me is, thank you so much for talking about your faith in a public forum. So even though I get criticized for it, I think it's a really important thing to continue to do. I'm one of the very few national news anchors that actually does talk about it. And it's not like I'm talking about it on a daily basis by any stretch of the imagination. But if there's a story that comes up, I'm going to say that I'm a Christian and here's what I believe.
Right. And having that faith is a big part of your life. And was there a turning point in your life to decide to become a believer of Jesus Christ?
I have been fortunate enough to have it be my foundation for my entire life. My grandfather was a Lutheran minister in the town where I grew up in Minnesota. And so our family was really involved in the church from the get-go. And I think it's a blessing and to give to children that foundation. And then they make the decision as they become confirmed or whatever you believe in your religion to carry on with that. But it's interesting that I chose a career in which you ask questions on a daily basis as a journalist. The one thing that I've never really had to question that much is my faith. And I find that has been such a great reward because there have been trying times in my life like everyone else. And sometimes faith is the only thing that we can hold on to.
You're absolutely right. That's the same for me. We ask questions on a daily basis, but that's one thing we don't question is our faith. Now, in your book, you talk about your relationship with your children and also your own parents. What are a few big things that you're teaching your children right now about the importance of Christ in their lives?
My husband and I teach Sunday school together, and we trade off between my son's class, he's 10, and my daughter's class, she's 12. And so that's one of the greatest lessons that we're teaching our children is that we're all involved in the church, and no matter what kind of careers we have or how busy we are, that we make church a priority. So that's first and foremost. And actually, the second greatest gift that I believe we can give kids is the idea of giving back. And it's actually the whole last chapter of my book, chapter 10, To Whom Much is Given, Much is Expected, which comes from Luke. And I wholeheartedly believe that it's so important to teach our children that the world is not all about them, and that to give back to others is just essential to become a full human being. So we spend a tremendous amount of time volunteering at our church, going to the homeless shelter. My kids teach the kids how to play chess. They have dance parties with them. They raise money for different, for lemonade stands and different foundations, and it's just incredibly important for them to learn that essential life lesson.
Absolutely. Now, can you share with us some of your favorite Bible verses that you like to meditate on?
Yeah, I can. Actually, I have these three Bible verses that I actually have taped to my day book. I'm kind of old fashioned in the sense that I have all the technology, but I still like to look at my book on my calendar and write things down by hand. And I have these three verses taped on the outside. Isaiah 41:10, which is, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." That's a good one for anyone who's having any kind of a bad day where they need a little uplifting message. Also, Psalm 27:1, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" And finally, Galatians 6:9, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." And
Amen.
that's really the essential lesson and message of my book, Getting Real, is no matter what kind of failures or pitfalls we face on a daily basis, that through faith and foundation and believing in ourselves and never giving up, that's what I think is just so important as a life message.
Absolutely right. Now, as mentioned before, you ask the tough questions in real life, but you also have the chance to be on set of the movie Persecuted, which I also have watched myself. Why did you want to be a part of this movie?
Yeah, you know what? Another lesson in my book, Danielle, is that no matter how old you are, you should continue to challenge yourself by taking on new goals, even if they make you nervous. And a lot of things still make me really nervous. And so acting was one of those things. I got approached to be in the movie Persecuted, and I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know anything about acting. And it was such a great experience. I was really nervous about it, but I played a journalist. And I learned so much. I also learned to appreciate live TV because when you do a film like that, you have to do 50 takes for one scene. The best part about live TV is you do the show and you might make a couple of mistakes, a couple of flubs, or mispronounce a few words, but at least it's over with and you just move on to the next day. And so it was a great learning lesson for me. And I've actually been in a couple other films since, and I'm looking forward to doing more of that.
Sounds awesome. Now, there may be someone right now that's listening that's struggling with self esteem, or they're being bold in their faith is something they struggle with in this day and age, and fear of what others may think. What would you tell that person?
Well, for me, turning 40 was sort of a revelation of that I really didn't care at all what other people thought about me. And I think that that's just a great message no matter what age you are. I wish I would have accomplished that earlier on because if you spend so much time worrying about trying to please others, you're never going to be happy with yourself. And after I became Miss America, it was really interesting how people just criticized me just because. It was almost like my resume fell off of the paper. And my dad, I went to him and I said, "Dad, why do people just not like me just because?" And he said, "Gretchen, no matter how hard you try, you are never going to get everyone to like you. So you work on those you think you can change and you disregard the others." And I have to tell you, I think about that advice every single day, as simplistic as it is. And that would be my advice to anyone else too, that, go with what you believe in your heart and forget those who are criticizing you, who are you never going to change, and don't waste your time trying to do so.
Right, you're absolutely right. I believe that many young women are concerned about the things of now and not the eternal award that we're supposed to be working for, not the temporary things on this earth, Gretchen. And once again, I would like to thank you so much for joining us for Memoirs of a Virtuous Woman. And for those of you that are listening, if you would like to get Gretchen's book, you can get that at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iBooks, and several other places, or you can simply visit GretchenCarlson.com. And Gretchen, thank you so much. Thank you for being a role model. Thanks for inspiring us and continue to inspiring us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and continued success to you as well.